Test, 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 test.
Check, 1, 2.
Sounds good. We're holding good. Test.
The opening segment of Sportscall is brought to you by JD's Tire and Auto. When looking for service, selection, quality, and value, no one does it better than JD's Tire and Auto in Alexander City. Offering any brand of tire you need with professional installation and fast turnaround. JD's Tire and Auto, the total package for all your vehicle needs. You're listening to Sports Call on Tiger 93.9, WTGZ, Union Springs, Montgomery, and Auburn, and AM 620 WTRP, LaGrange.
You better buckle your seatbelts because it's going to be a show to watch.
From Tiger Communications.
Jackson, touchdown!
For 20 years, East Alabama's sports talk leader.
Swing and drive, mountain right!
Sports Call.
Oh, what a dunk!
Call in now at 887-3401 locomotive. Or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out!
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sports Call.
Hello again, everyone, and good Tuesday afternoon. Welcome into another edition of Sports Call. I am Andy Graham alongside Randy Lee, and we'll be with you for the next 120 minutes, taking your phone calls and discussing everything relevant in the world of sports. We appreciate so much all of you out there tuning us in today, whether that be on 93.9 The Tiger or sportscallauburn.com via the internet. Got a lot to talk about today, a lot going on in the world of Auburn. Of course, Auburn playing right now against Colorado, just kind of finishing up. Does not look good for the Auburn Tigers right now, as Colorado is kind of taking control in the second half of the ball game. So we'll kind of keep you up to date on that. But we appreciate you joining us today. We'd love for you to be a part of the program. So give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free, or locally at 334-887-3401 on the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. Sports Call today brought to you by Home Place Mortgage. Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin, the region's best mortgage professionals, and rates for all new home or refinancing mortgage services. Come to the right place. Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin. You can check them out at homeplacemtg.com. As we come on the air, Auburn about a minute to play in the game. Colorado up 89-80. So a 9-point lead. Colorado with the ball with coming down to about a minute and 8 right now. Still left in that ball game. Auburn gets off to a good start last Friday night as they beat UAB. So they're 1-0. But again, it does not look good right now with Colorado with a 9-point lead under a minute to play. So the Auburn football team upended by Georgia 22-13. Of course, we'll love to get your take on that. I know there's a lot of calls on the show yesterday. Everybody's certainly got an opinion about where the program's headed, where it is right now, what went wrong on Saturday. There are a lot of other games in the SEC, college football playoff. Top 25 comes out again tonight, as it does every Tuesday night. We'll kind of talk about where we think that'll be, if there'll be any changes in that. Brian Matthews will join us at 4:30 to talk talk about all Auburn sports as they're going on right now. And at 5:30, we'll be joined by Chad Scott, radio personality down there in Jacksonville, Florida, and contributor with Gridiron Now at 5:30. So be sure to join us for that. We're, of course, taking your phone calls as we always do. Love to hear from you. Love to get your take on everything that's going on right now. Randy, we'll kind of, open it up wherever you want to start. You want to start with basketball? You want to start with football?
I was hoping we'd start with basketball about 15 minutes into the first half. I felt pretty good about it, and I was going to stick with it. But unfortunately, since 3 minutes to go in the first half, it's been all Colorado from there on out. It looks bearable. It looks like the athleticism out on the floor. Simeon Bowers didn't have a very good game. And if you can get all the pieces moving in the same direction, I think we've got something there. Do you want to start there, Andy?
Yeah, I went to the game Friday night. Crowd was unbelievable. I thought it was a tremendous crowd. UAB's a good team. Auburn certainly matched up very well with them. Kareem Canty, he is as advertised. And he is as advertised today. He came out, and that's one of the reasons Auburn had a lead going into the half today. He went off in the first half against Colorado, had 19. That has not really translated in the second half. I think he's got 5 in the second half. But he is the real deal. He's a scorer. He's going to, he needs to get into the flow of the offense a little bit, get some more people involved at times. But he's certainly a big piece that Auburn was missing last year. Tyler Harris, the transfer from Providence, he is another piece that's going to be good moving forward. He's a presence down low. He got some outside game as well, but it just seemed like, I don't know, it was kind of, Horace Spencer got a technical foul called him after a follow-in dunk that put Auburn up by 3. And, he came down and kind of, I guess, swatted the ball and bounced it up in the air. They called technical foul on it. And it's like it's never been the same since. Colorado comes down, hit 2 free throws, gets the ball. I think they end up tying the game or either going up by 1. And it's really been, we haven't been able to close the gap pretty much since. Colorado's had a lead. So, but they're just killing us inside. And that's kind of what happened last year. Now, it's 89-82, 24 seconds to play right now. Colorado is inbounding the ball. But, this same team has beat Auburn by 31 last year in Colorado. So that's definitely progress. It would have been nice to win this game, but, you could be Alabama. You could have got beat by 31 today.
Well, it was
32.
I listened to quite a bit of that Alabama game, and they were never in it. And we knew, or at least the Alabama fans, me not being one of them, of course, knew or it felt like it was going to be a tough season. And so far it looks that way. As Auburn, I would say in year 2 that I feel pretty good about it. I see the length on the court. I see the athleticism. I feel like we're making a push to getting some inside presence outside of Simeon, who was all we had last year. Horace Spencer's a good piece to that. And got a couple of good role players that can come in with some bodies also. So this is definitely, and who knows what we have once all the pieces are together. Bryce Brown is his first game. Shamsuddin still out. We get him back. He's our best defender. Everybody says it.
He played today.
Yeah, New Williams, another name that we're hoping to see out there. Hey, Daniel Purifoy, kid from Bibb County that missed his high school senior season and ends up signing with Auburn, the number 1 recruit here in the state of Alabama last year. Great size, 6'7", 6'8", can play a 3 or a 4. To get a body back like that, who knows what could happen. But that's when you keep rolling down a list of 9 or 10 guys you feel pretty good about. When's the last time we could say that at Auburn, Andy?
Yeah, depth is going to be a big issue. I mean that's going to be a big help this year. There was something that Auburn hasn't had in 3 or 4 years, really. But Horace Spencer, like you said, I really like him. He's just a freshman. He's just learning how to play, really. But you can just tell how long he is, and great shot blocker. What he's going to be if he can develop some kind of offensive game, and really start hitting the boards. That's the one thing I'm concerned about right now. I mean, Auburn got out rebounded by Indianapolis. They got out rebounded by UAB, and they're getting out rebounded by Colorado. That's going to have to. Auburn, it's not by a lot, but it is. Auburn is getting out rebounded, and with the guys that we have, I don't know. That should not be. Seaman Bowers is going to have to be a force on the boards. Horace Spencer is going to have to be a force on the boards. Tyler Harris is going to have to be more of a force on the board. So that's a final. Colorado 91, Auburn 84. Again, a 7-point loss to Colorado at home yeah, I mean, we would have liked to have won that game, but that's night and day difference from where we were last year. So you can go ahead and you can see that improvement right now, and hopefully that will continue. The women, they're 2-0. They got off to a great start this year, and it's a big year for Coach Flo. So, Auburn beats UAB at home. They go on the road to beat Southeast Louisiana, and neither game has been that close. So that's a good start for them as well.
Startup football, Andy. I'm going to let you go first, buddy. It is tough sitting on this side of the table. I'm going to try to play off you today.
All right. I think this is the summation that I had from watching that game. And I was there. I mean, I saw it in person. Auburn has two quarterbacks. One that they have absolutely no faith in and no belief in his consistency, his ability to throw the ball consistency. And they have another quarterback that is playing on one leg right now. So, in other words, Auburn doesn't really have a quarterback, that at least one that they trust. We've been saying, and it's so obvious that Auburn's kind of been the poster child for the last, several years. When you get great quarterback play, you win ball games and everybody's happy and, joy to the world. You get poor quarterback play, and it is absolutely miserable. When we look at it, and I look back, we're going to look at this season and say, as bad as we were offensively at times, I mean, every game that we lost was by one score. We were in all these ball games, except for LSU. Auburn was in every ball game they could and had opportunities to win them. Now I'm going to talk about the defense certainly, but first of all, first things first. Quarterback play is it's just not there right now.
It's not there, and I want to bring that up. If we are at this point, and this is not the first year of Malzahn. I'm going back. We lost him for a year, but he was part of this staff since 2008. So he's been around quite a while. Well, okay, 2009, excuse me. 2008 was the last year of Tuberville, so I apologize. So we go to 9, moving in. Man. Well, 2008, I'm thinking of the first year that we go to the spread.
I'm with you.
So that's when you went back with those numbers that, by the way, were 30 and 33 in SEC play since we went to the spread. Now, I keep running those numbers in my head each week as we move on. But this is an Auburn team that, unfortunately, as we stand up here, Andy, you just have no consistency at all. You're so dependent on finding the next Cam Newton and the next Fireball and Nick Marshall to come in. Both of those guys, not guys that you signed out of high school, both of those guys were at rivals of Georgia, being those two. So you're consistently hoping that you can go out there and you can get a dynamic playmaker that can make things turn around. Otherwise, you're going to be ho-hum. And after a while, I hate to be feeling sorry for the fan base or whatever, but Andy, I don't have a ton of confidence. I've got a pretty good bit of confidence in Coach Muschamp that he's going to get us physical on the defensive side of the ball. But right now, the problem I have with Auburn overall is we just don't seem like a physical program. You may change one's physical brand of football, but overall, we don't have something we can hang our hat on. We no longer line up and run the football directly at you. Good luck. We can point to the hole. We're about to run it. No, Javon Robinson looks like an all-SEC back in the first half, and we give it to him twice in the second. It makes no sense. It's sense when you have no confidence at all in your quarterback to give it to your running back that's really turning into a big-time playmaker twice in the second half. I'll start with that one. Do you have an answer for that one?
For Javon Robinson?
Yes, touching it twice in the second half.
None whatsoever. I mean, somebody said on the, you were reading, on the message boards or whatnot, they said on the radio concussion symptoms or something. And but Gus Malzahn didn't. He said he was fine. He was healthy. So, and the fact that he came in and carried it late in the fourth quarter, I think, with one of those carries, kind of leads you to that. And in his, I think it's in his talk today or yesterday, maybe it was on Tiger Talk or either in his press conference today, he was talking about, look, we believe in both Peyton Barber and Javon. And we felt, we went with Barber in the second half, and that was our plan and that was our thinking. It makes no sense. I mean, you can't look at it objectively and say that these two guys are equal. I love Peyton Barber. I love him. But Javon Robinson is the most guy we got.
I love both of them too. Okay. And if we both love them, and I love Javon Robinson. Javon Robinson touches the ball 12 times for 93 yards, almost 8 yards a carry. Love him. Peyton Barber touches it 13 times for 72 yards, 5.5 yards a carry. We got 25 carries between the two of them in a game when you have no zip. Run them 45 times. Run both of them 20-plus times. I'm not a coach, but some of these things to me just feel like common sense, Andy, and that's the reason so many Auburn fans, they go over there on Saturday and spend their hard-earned dollars, and I'll even throw that one out there here because after this long stretch of ho-hum football, I've about had enough spending my hard-earned dollars over there. And going over there and just not putting a good product out on the field for whatever reason. I think that we've got the athletes. I don't think there's a lot of excuse on that front. Do you agree, Andy?
Yes. At least offensive. I mean, yes. I mean,
I didn't feel like we had the athletes when Terry Bowden left.
Okay. Yeah. I
thought we were. When Tuberville came in, I didn't feel like we had the athletes and we hadn't done a great job recruiting. Now I'd take a lot of these guys and put them on a lot of winning programs.
I love our offensive line. I mean, I think Austin Golden getting hurt, it hurt us. But I think
Danzy played well.
He did play well, but he came in. But I mean, I don't know. It's confusing, and I think that's the best word. I think everybody they're just confused about what are we doing? What are we trying to be? And that's what I've been saying for 2 weeks. We got to once and all figure out what do we want to be, because if we keep going back and forth, this whole business about we'll just recruit the best guy for the position at quarterback, that's not working.
I agree. Let's go to the phone lines. Terry, you're on Sportscall. Terry, you there with us? Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Yes, sir. All right. I would never be so blatant as calling Coach Malzahn a liar. But I will say you can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. Because week before last, he said Sean White was practicing with the team and everything was fine. Come to find out, he didn't practice with the team. Let's see now. He said that the team's got all the confidence in the world and the coaching staff's got all the confidence in the world with both quarterbacks. He said that what the question you just asked a while ago is about your running backs. And he said they were fine. If they were fine, I don't know why he didn't utilize them. But, like I said, I'd never be so blatant to call a man a liar. I just can't trust anything that comes out of his mouth.
I don't disagree. I felt like that. I felt the exact same way. I think I even said that to myself this weekend. I just, I don't really take anything he says for like as fact anymore. I think it's all. I don't know if he's trying to mislead people on purpose, or if it's for a reason. I'm sure everything he does probably has a reason to it, but I just kind of I take what I see.
Next weekend we all know that Alabama and Auburn's going to play. It wouldn't surprise me for him to say that everything's fine and Auburn's going to play Syracuse.
Terry, we appreciate the phone call, buddy. We're up against the break.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. 888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Sports Call presented by Home Place Mortgage right after this. Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free, locally at 334-887-3401 on the AO Tourism Hotline. Today's Sports Call brought to you by Lee Marketing Group. From logo design and branding to ad placement, LMG can handle it all. For ease of time, cutting edge, results-driven marketing campaigns, think Lee Marketing Group, your comprehensive marketing solution. Be sure to check them out at leemarketing.net for all your marketing needs. We were talking about, of course, the Auburn Georgia game. I'd love to hear your thoughts or your complaints or your misery. Misery loves company, so certainly give us a call and let us know what you thought about that game and about Auburn moving forward. What do they need to do? How do we fix the problem? How does Gus Malzahn go about fixing the problem? I don't think it's going to be fixed this year, but how does it get fixed from here on out? Obviously, the backbreaker Saturday was McKenzie punt return for a touchdown. That got me to thinking, and I'll throw a trivia question out there today. When's the last time Auburn gave up a punt return for a touchdown before Saturday? I was kind of surprised when I went back and looked at it. Now, there's a caveat here. Mississippi State actually blocked a punt in 2009 and ran it in for a touchdown, but I'm not going to count that. I mean, I'm talking about just gave up a legitimate, they punted, and they run it back for a touchdown. When's the last time Auburn gave up a punt return for a touchdown before Saturday? My goodness, that was just – I mean, Phillips doesn't get a decent punt off all day, and then he gets his best punt off and he out-punts his coverage. I mean, that's a microcosm of Auburn's season, is it not?
It definitely is. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Back to the phone lines. Casey, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, Casey, you with us?
Hopefully we'll be able to catch up with Casey. He is gone. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Not a great day punting the football, but again, kicking. Carlson still exceptional. Where is he on the list? I mean, has he got a great chance of winning the awards this year?
The Glue Grows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got more 50-yard field goals than anybody in the country, I think. And, what is he, 20 of 23 now? So got a great average. So I think that, I mean, there are probably some guys out there. I'm not that Aguayo from Florida State. He's always near the top. But, to be honest with you, I haven't seen anybody else that I'd rather have than Daniel Carlson. I mean, like I said, he's got a better average from 40 plus than he does from 20 to 29. He's missed actually 2 from then. So I'm sure he wants those back.
Let's talk positives. Defense. Defense is a positive. I mean, you look down, we gave up 243 yards. A positive. Buddy, me and you said it last week. If I could just take the defense, actually, I think I said it a few weeks ago, and I stepped all over my foot and stuck my foot in my mouth like I normally do and said I feel like we'll get the offense turned around. Now I'm starting to question that. But defensively, the last few ball games have been very good. Even the 500-yard gain that we had the first game back for Carl Lawson at least looked better. They had some pressure back there. They got out of some pressure and made some plays, but nonetheless, since Carl Lawson's back, it has made a tremendous difference, hasn't it, Andy?
Well, look, Texas A&M and Georgia, nobody's going to confuse them for juggernauts. Texas A&M's kind of struggling with the quarterback themselves. Georgia is just painfully mediocre, pretty much all the way around, especially offensively. But we've been giving up big yards to bad teams.
Yeah.
So to go 303, to give up 303 to A&M and then give up 200, when's the last time we had a better performance than that defensively? 2011. Ironically, against Florida with a new rookie head coach, Will Muschamp, where he gave up 194 total yards to Florida that night. That was an abysmal game, but Auburn did win it. But if you would, we've been saying this for years now. I mean, if we could just get to be mediocre defensively, and now we give up back-to-back great, stellar defensive games, and we can't even score but one offensive touchdown. I mean, my head's about to explode. I mean, it's so frustrating to see. But we've said that. I mean, we said, look, at the beginning of the year, we think Will Muschamp by the end of the year will probably, be playing some pretty good defense. He will get it figured out eventually, and it looks like he has. Now, again, we're not playing great offenses here, but we're doing what we should be doing. We're looking so much better against the run. You're seeing guys on the defensive line actually, Devereaux Lawrence coming out.
He looked great.
He did. I mean, Swain has played better here as of late. It just everybody is playing. And you see Stephen Roberts, he has made some of the best form tackles in the past 2 weeks that I've seen anybody make all year.
I'm super proud for him. I really am. I thought that he was one of those guys that was going to get lost in the shuffle. When he's out on the field, you see that he's in between, probably size-wise. But, I mean, a baller's a baller. I mean, we have seen that from Robinson Therese, who has made his way on to Bates, who's made his way on the NFL rosters. Both of those guys were a little small compared to what they needed to be, the ideal size for their position. But they are ballers, and they were ballers when they came in. And Stephen Roberts is that way, and you can just tell, Andy, he's got a nose for the ball. And when he hits you, you go backwards. And he's a great form tackler, and he's about what Opelika produces. Opelika produces those type of guys that are physical and like it, enjoy physicality, and those are the type that I'd like to see continue to come around Auburn.
Yeah, it's just a shame that we wasted, this effort. And, you go back to it. And, I said at the beginning, we got a quarterback we don't trust. I'm not sure why they would have trust. I'm not saying it's misplaced. That we should have all this trust. Jeremy drops back to throw a slant. It's about 6 feet high for an interception. So I almost feel sorry for Malzahn a little bit because I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do in a situation like this.
I'll give you an answer.
Okay.
Here's what you do. My math, I'm no mathematician. Ask my wife. But looking at the two tailbacks that we played a majority of the snaps, they had 25 carries for 165 yards. My math's okay. 6.5 yards to 7 yards a carry. Give them the football more. Run that pace. Get up the line of scrimmage and continue at it. Am I off there? I've been begging for it all year.
We ran 50-something carries against A&M, and it looked like that was the same game plan against Georgia. And, again, we went right down the field and scored. But they started just crashing the line of scrimmage when they figured out that, hey, we can't throw the football, so we're just – we're going to stack the box and actually dare you to throw it, and we couldn't do it.
Well, but still, you're getting 7 yards a carry. Keep letting them dare. Let them put all of them in the box. Well, Georgia Southern played Will Muschamp last year or 2 years ago, I believe, and they beat them. They didn't throw it any. I
don't know. I don't understand why Javon Robinson doesn't have at least 20 carries in this game. That's just a total mystery to me. But I think it's a mystery to everybody else, and I don't think there are any answers. Because people keep asking Gus, and he keeps answering, but it's some vague, weird answer. So I don't know. Anyway, we'd love to get your thoughts on it. We'll take those phone calls in the next segment. Hopefully, when we come back, we'll be joined by Brian Matthews. I'm sure he's probably covering the game. We'll try to catch up with him. We'll see if we can or not. But hopefully, Brian Matthews when we come back. More Sportscall presented by Lee Marketing Group right after this. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you for about 30 more minutes in our first hour of today's show. Taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll-free locally at 334-887-3401 on the AO Tourism Hotline. The phone lines are open. Having some problem connected with Brian Matthews. I'm sure he's covering the post game for the basketball game, so we'll try to connect with him maybe tomorrow sometime a little later. But trivia question out there today: when's the last time Auburn gave up a punt return for a touchdown before Saturday? Unfortunately, the backbreaker. Again, the caveat: Mississippi State blocked a punt and returned it for a touchdown in 2009, but we're not talking about that. This is just a regular punt return for a touchdown.
I want question of the day I want to throw out there because I'd love to hear from the Auburn fan base. Your biggest concern about this Auburn football program as a whole, not only right now but moving forward. What is your biggest concern? If you don't have a concern, you feel like Auburn's going to get things turned around and things are going to work out in the long run with these two coaches there. I'm bringing up these two coaches, and Malzahn and Muschamp. I consider both of them an integral part of what we're doing here. Call in, let us know your thoughts. Back to the phone lines. Tim, you're on Sports Call. Tim, you there with us?
Yeah, how are y'all doing today?
We're good. Good to hear from you, Tim.
I've been asking this question and all, and it's a small polling, but I wanted to ask the two of you. We're going to go 6-6 this year. I think that's pretty obvious. And this coaching staff being the highest paid in the SEC, do you think that coaches are going to be fired?
That's a good question. I'm going to say no. I don't know who. I don't know who you fire. I mean, wow. I would not be surprised if guys went elsewhere, but I don't think you'll be. I mean, I could see us reshuffling a little bit on the defensive line, but otherwise, I mean, I don't know. I don't know who you fire on this staff.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I should have known, Andy. You was going to pick up on my defensive line complaints, since that's what I've been doing ever since I've been calling in here. Hey, and that leads to another question. With Pinkle stepping down at Missouri at the end of this year, is that defensive line coach that's been producing these good players the last couple of years, is he still on that staff, or did he go somewhere else? Do y'all know right off the bat?
Who are we talking about again?
The defensive line coach from Missouri. You know, ever since Missouri joined the SEC, they really have been. I mean, you know, they've been putting out some good defensive linemen, and I don't know if it's the same coach that's been there the whole time, but he really seems like that he develops defensive linemen, and I would really love to see Auburn just get a defensive line coach that could develop players. I mean, here it is 2 years later, and if it wasn't for Carl Lawson, we still wouldn't get no pass rush, and I just don't see any kind of development anywhere in the defensive line.
Great call. We appreciate it, Tim. We're going to look into that and see if that coach has been there for a while, and we'll pass that along. Okay, buddy?
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Our question of the day, your biggest concern for this Auburn football program moving forward. If you don't have one, feel like we're moving in the right direction, you can call in and say that as well. Back to the phone lines. Casey, you're on Sports Call.
Good afternoon.
Glad to have you, Casey.
Glad y'all have the venue. My main concern is quarterback development. I have actually posed this question, I think, on the call-in show on Saturday. The one thing about Gus Malzahn, if you look at under a microscope, is look.
I believe we lost Casey.
Hopefully we can get Casey back. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-34.
Yeah,
glad to have you, Casey.
I'm interested in that comment. I was bated breath, and then you went out on us.
But yeah, my main concern is the quarterback, development. And Gus Malzahn, as I broached this with the guys on the post game show after the Georgia game. Gus Malzahn really hasn't had his own quarterback for many years, and people have always said, well, hey, wait till he gets a quarterback for 3 or 4 years. And to be honest with you, it seems like the longer we go, the less they look like they've been developed. And most of the good quarterbacks that he's brought in have been JUCO transfers. And my other concern I was telling them with is we don't let our quarterbacks go to third-party trainers and coaches like George Whitfield Jr. He's taken a very negative stance against that. And I mean, the thing is George Whitfield Jr. has produced some really good, talent that he's actually coached. And the main thing that baffles me is why not? Because don't you want your quarterback to get as many reps as he can? I mean, yeah, he can say that, I want to train him that way. But, I mean, if you look at Jeremy Johnson, you put the video on slow-mo, he has poor mechanics in his footwork. You aim that football with your foot, and that's your accuracy. But I just see, especially on touch passes, he doesn't use his feet, and he just has very poor footwork. What do you guys think?
Casey has great comments this afternoon. Got a lot of phone calls coming through. We're going to try to get to those, and then we'll come back to it. But Casey brings up quarterback development. Defensive line is what we heard from Tim. Our question of the day, what's your biggest concern with this Auburn football program moving forward? We'd love to hear from you. Casey brought up great points right there. Not only mine and Andy's points or our opinions out there. We want to hear from the Auburn fan base. Johnny, you're on Sportscall.
Hey, Johnny, you with us?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Good to have you, Johnny.
Number one concern, I agree, is quarterback. Let me ask you guys a question. Nick Marshall's there this year. What's our record right now?
That's a good question. I would say maybe one loss.
I'm sitting on probably 9-1 or 10-0. It's quarterback play. I think everybody, including Gus Malzahn, watched that first half against Arkansas and drank the Kool-Aid and said, we're going to change. When Nick leads, we're going to change to down the field, dynamic passing game, running, power ball passing. And that first game, I think it just threw the coaching staff into such a shock with 4 or 5 interceptions there in 2 games. It's like they've just completely failed on everything they tried to do during the offseason. That was one point I had. And one thing I've noticed this year, too, and it's just a kind of a pet peeve of mine. A lot of these turnovers we're having, fumbles, there's some close, the one where the quarterback threw the ball and they dropped it. Our players are not selling it. I mean, if you do drop the ball, at least get up and try to make the initial, let the referee know your knee was down or you was throwing. And a lot of people say it don't matter, but it absolutely matters. The call on the field matters. Because a lot of times there's not enough video evidence to turn it. So you need to sell it. Even if you drop the ball, you need to sell it that referee. My arm was going forward. Because if you get that call there, a lot of times it's hard to overturn it. And a lot of times I see these guys just drop their head and walk to the sideline. Well, of course, the referee is going to stand by his call at that point. But that's just one thing I've noticed throughout the year. All right, thanks, guys.
Great phone call, Johnny. So we've got 2 quarterback developments. Effort complaining,
that's huge.
Fumbles and turnovers on the field, and then defensive line call from Tim. Back to the phone lines. Chris, you're on Sportscall.
Hey, fellas. How's it going?
Glad to have you, Chris.
I think the biggest thing that needs to be happening is about the nutrition coach and the weight room coach. Because there is absolutely no reason for our guys to be pushed around the way they've been pushed around all year long up front.
Oh yeah, I mean it's I'm of 2 minds about this. I see the video before the season, and they're showing the weight room, they're showing the guys working out. They got the bell in there, and every time you're just ringing it, it's a personal best for somebody. It's almost impossible for me to believe that our guys are not as strong as they've ever been in their lives. I mean, I don't understand it. I really don't, and I don't think we're getting pushed around right now on the defensive line, but. To your point, I watched. Go ahead.
Well, when I saw Barber taking off on a handoff, and he's waiting for his tackle to be blown out of the box so he can get around him. I mean, the LSU game is the prime example of that. He knew the right tackle was going to get blown away, and he actually hesitated long enough for that to happen so he could go.
I think back to the Jacksonville State game, and I made this comment after that game. I said, look. I mean, I sat there and watched, and we couldn't win the line of scrimmage against Jacksonville State. And I was, to your point, I mean, I can't understand it, and I don't. I see one thing, what they tell us, is going on in the weight room, but it's not translating to the field, and I don't have an answer for it.
Chris, we appreciate the phone call this afternoon, buddy.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Got a lot of them coming through, and want to thank all of you for calling in. We want your opinions. Your biggest concern with this Auburn program as we move forward. And if you don't have a concern, call in with that also. Curtis, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys, War Eagle.
War Eagle to you, Curtis.
Hey, my biggest concern about our football team is field goal kicking. I'm just kidding. That's actually the thing I'm most confident in. But, aside from quarterback play, which is obvious, I'm concerned about our receivers because if you look back the past few years, it doesn't seem like we have really just developed really good, fundamentally sound receivers. Like the last one I can remember, you had Darvin Adams and Emory Blake, but besides that, like Sammy Coates had some good moments, but he dropped a lot of passes. Ricardo dropped a lot of passes. Duke was good, but he was a JUCO guy. Quan Bray, it took him forever until he was finally good his senior year. Trevon Reed flopped. I'm ready for us to get like good freshman receivers like Alabama does. I mean, I know Amari Cooper and Julio Jones are a bit of an anomaly because they were just elite, but they got this new guy, the Ridley kid, and he's dominating. And I just don't see why we can't get good young receivers that come in and immediately turn into great players. And I'll hang up and listen.
Curtis, thanks so much for the phone call. We're going to continue down the list. One more phone call before we go to this break. Wyatt, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, Wyatt.
Hey, how y'all doing? War Eagle.
War Eagle to you, Wyatt.
Yeah, my main concern is what Curtis just said, too, the receiver play. And I love Damon Craig. I love the way he coaches. Or I should say the way he recruits. But it just doesn't seem like he keeps developing at all.
I tell you what's scary about this, and why we appreciate the phone call this afternoon. We're going to go to break, Andy, but a majority of these concerns is on the offensive side of the ball. Would you have three weeks ago, if we bring this up, would you have believed that almost all, actually all, unless you want to say nutrition in the weight room, D-line was brought up at the first call with Tim, but a majority of these on the offensive side of the ball, we'll talk about it on the other side.
Saturday was ugly. And that'll bring them out. Let's go to break. More Sports Call presented by Home Place Mortgage is on the way. Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy and Randy here with you for one more segment in the first hour of today's Sports Call. Taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll free locally at 334-887-3401 on the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. Our question of the day: what's your biggest concern about this Auburn program moving forward? And trivia question out there: when's the last time Auburn gave up a punt return for a touchdown? Obviously, the Isaiah McKenzie return was a backbreaker against Georgia on Saturday. Before that, when was the last time Auburn gave up a punt return for a touchdown, not counting the Mississippi State blocked punt for a touchdown in 2009?
Back to that question of the day, though, and we had a lot of phone calls, and that's what we want to hear. Andy and I will give our opinion if the phones stop ringing. But if they don't, then we're going to go back to the phone line like we will now. Bryant, you're on Sports Call.
For me, the guy before me hit the nail on the head. It's receivers. Everybody says lines getting beat up front, everything else, quarterback play. What's the number one thing you've got to do as a receiver at this level to be able to play?
Catch the football.
No, you've got to be able to block first.
Okay.
Because if you're blocking and you're running your drag routes and your fake routes right, you'll beat that man. That's why the quarterback needs to read through his progression. If you've got receivers that's working right, he'll have progressions to read through, because we're really missing Sammy Coates. Sammy Coates can take off and fly down the field and outrun everybody and catch the ball. Or he could run down the field and actually pass the defensive back trying to catch him, coming back to the line of scrimmage to catch it in the middle when Marshall would roll out. Blocking on the edge has been a big thing. Another thing, earlier in the year, I didn't get to watch the Georgia game. I was at Troy watching Georgia Southern just off film. But when we go to run a play, Malzahn, everybody talks about, he kept slowing it down. But he would make a call, and every one of the receivers would be changed. It was like you had a different package of receivers to run the ball and a different package of receivers to throw the ball. And to me, a receiver can't get his feel for a defensive back to see how he tries to get off blocks and how he tries to read things. He's one and back on the sideline. 2 plays later, he's back out there with him again. It's just like any offense. You've got to build a rhythm. You've got to be able to build a rhythm with who's guarding.
Bryant, great phone call, buddy. We appreciate it. We're going to go back to the phone lines. Got a lot of callers coming through, and we want to hear from all of you out there today. Drew, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
We're good, Drew. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I think, receivers is a big thing to say just because it's true. Ricardo, love him to death, but the guy just can't catch. And I think somebody said our strength and conditioning coach earlier, and I think he's been great. I mean, you got to think he's training these guys up to run a fast tempo offense. And when you're not doing that, I mean, you're letting the defense sub, and, they're working out probably for that fast pace to get that explosiveness and that endurance. And when you're not doing that, I think you're giving the other team an advantage, because that's not how you're working your kids out. And I think if Russell wanted to, work these kids out to be a power running team, that he'd probably change up what he's doing to them. But he's got to think they're really doing like stamina stuff and trying to get their endurance up and while gaining strength. And when you're not doing that, I mean, you're not going to look good. And I think that's kind of what we're doing. And, Gus just needs to get back to his bread and butter, run and pace, run the ball. And, I would just go back to running the ball first and second down and throw it on third down. I mean, you got to change it up. And, I think everybody's been saying it all day. When Javon Robinson 2 carries in the second half against that Georgia team, it's just made every fan mad, and it just makes you question what he's thinking. So appreciate it, guys. Y'all get back.
Drew, I want to tape that and replay it back, because you said it better than I could. That's my exact point, and that would be what I'll say here in the second hour. If we had a break, we'd hope we don't have one, though. Back to the phone line. Shadow, you're on Sports Call. Shadow, let's catch up with Shadow in the second hour of the program. Shadow's always a great caller, and we appreciate him calling in each day. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401.
The Fox Sports Report is coming up next, but never fear. Randy and I will be back with hour number 2 of Sports Call right after this.
Coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sports Call.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Hour number 2 of today's show. Andy Graham and Randy Lee here with you for one more hour, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. Had a lot of great phone calls in the first hour of today's show. Hopefully that'll continue in the second hour. Question of the day, what's your biggest concern with this Auburn program moving forward? I'm a little surprised. A lot of the comments have been about the receivers. Of course, quarterback play is a big concern, but strength and conditioning, another one. The defensive line was mentioned as well, but receivers has been mentioned more than anybody, anything else. So I'd love to hear from you. Give us a call and let us know how you feel about that. Threw a trivia question out there. In the first hour, no guesses yet. When's the last time Auburn had given up a punt return for a touchdown? The Isaiah McKenzie punt return was a backbreaker in the Georgia game Saturday. Previous to that, when was the last time Auburn had given up a punt return for a touchdown? Now Mississippi State blocked a punt in 2009 and ran it in for a touchdown, but this not counting a block here. When's the last time Auburn gave up a punt return for a touchdown?
A lot of phone calls there in the first hour, and that's what we want here in the second. We do have one guest coming up at 5:30, but that question of the day is out there for you. Andy and I give our opinion way too much here on this program. We consider ourselves fans just like you out there, so call in, and we're going to let you have your take here on the program this afternoon. Shadow, you're on Sports Call.
Receivers, are you kidding? You know, I believe the last time I checked that it was the responsibility of a coach that knows anything about receivers to put him out there. Now, I'm sorry that our coaches at Auburn continue to put receivers out there that can't catch, but I would say it reflects more on the coaches than the receivers. I mean, give me a break. If the guy can't catch it, if he can't block, then it's an evaluation, and it reflects poorly on the coach that chose to put the man out there. I'll put the water boy out there and get better effort out of him. As far as what Auburn needs to do, first you need to establish an identity. And then you don't need to go out there and get long, tall, short, and fat and slow quarterbacks if you're going to run an up-tempo offense. You know, probably the best quarterback you got on the damn team is Jason Smith, and you hadn't even given him a shot. It is a reflection of Malzahn that he would put Jeremy Johnson out there after building him up and touting him for the Heisman Trophy, and then he's sitting the bench before the end of the first month of the season. As far as the defense, make up your mind that you want to play pressure and attack football instead of tentative football. And because you ain't got somebody that can put pressure on the back, you back your quarterbacks up 25 yards. My God, give me a break. What has happened to Auburn football that played for the national title 2 years ago, and now we're the worst damn team in the Western Division? Give me a freaking break, Auburn. You know, I'm going to tell you something. I'm a basketball fan because, you know something, Pearl is full of fire. He's full of emotion. He's a great coach. And I forget the Iron Bowl. I ain't even going to watch it. Besides, it made me sick on my stomach. Thank you.
Great phone call out there. We appreciate it, Shadow.
He's been saving up for that one.
Hey, it was a good one. Mike, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good to hear from you, Mike.
All right. I got a question, man. I see everybody pointing fingers at the players, and some of them pointing the finger at the coach. Where did Gus Malzahn and Rhett Lashley, basically, what did Rhett Lashley do before Gus Malzahn hired him?
Well, he was a quarterback. You know, he quarterback at high school and went on to college, I guess. I think his first job was with Malzahn as a graduate assistant.
Okay. And Gus was an offensive coordinator at Tulsa, right?
He was. He started out at Arkansas and then moved on to Tulsa.
Okay. At what point did he hire Rhett Lashley? When in his career did he hire Rhett Lashley?
I'm not 100% sure.
Well, this is what I'm getting at, guys. What have he done to deserve the position that he's in? We got a coach over there that coaches wide receivers that play quarterback just like Rhett Lashley. But not only that, he coached quarterback that played in national championship games. Say what you want about Jameis Winston and E.J. Manuel. You know, these guys made it to the league. So why is that we hire him from Florida State and put him as a receiver coach, a position that he really never played or coached? I mean, I don't understand it, man. It just, my concern about this program is that we got somebody over there that's running this program that really doesn't know how. I mean, you know, let's chop it up like it is. He's still a young coach now. He probably got the capability to learn, but and he making some decisions that it just asking.
Yeah, he better learn quick.
Yeah, but that's my concern about the program.
Thank you so much, Mike. Yeah, we got a lot of phone calls coming through, and we're going to go to them this afternoon and not give too many of our opinions as they come on in. Rain Man, you're on Sports Call.
Well, I'm going to be as brief as I can be because I know you got a commercial break coming up here.
We're in good shape, Rain Man. You say what you've got.
Well, I'm still going to try to be a little bit brief. You know, this problem we need to look at is the long-term evidence of the development of the team collectively, not just that Jeremy Johnson needs to play or that we didn't have any to play, but that every play on every phase seems to not be bigger, stronger, faster, better. You seem to develop players as they progress. You know, if you're a big-time recruit and you go to the school across the other side of the state, there's a high degree of probability by the time you're in your third or fourth year, teams, you know, the NFL's going to be looking at you, you're going to be regarded as a player because you've been taught and trained. You know what your job is. You've been disciplined to do what you're supposed to do, and you're confident in what you're supposed to do, and you've gotten bigger, stronger, faster, better. And I just don't see that out of our team. This is not, you know, taking over a bad team. This is your third. It feels like where almost like you're coming in and taking over a 3-9 team like you did in 2013. And this wasn't a 3-9 team last year or the year before, and you didn't just get here. Third year, better, right?
I'm with you, Rain Man. It's a good point this afternoon. He's dead on. So many friends of mine have an identity with this program. And right now, I think all of us think we want to be on the Gus bus. I don't hear our fan base. I have confidence, but I don't know what in the world we're doing now. It doesn't feel like what I saw in 2013. Several more phone calls coming through. Back to the phone lines. Grenade, your own Sports Call. Grenade, you there with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Good to hear from you.
Hey, good. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, just what you just said, you know, we want to be on the Gus bus, and I don't know why that's different than like it was with Chiswick, but we do want to be on. We don't like him lying to us about Sean White, not telling us what's happening. But at some point, you know, you hear the caller, Shadow's fed up. I heard Stroud not too long ago. I know we don't want to keep changing coaches, but we've won one out of the last 8 SEC games. We're excited because we hung in there with Ole Miss at home. Are you kidding? We hung in there with Mississippi State at home. We were within 7 of Georgia at home, and we beat Kentucky away by 3 points. when you look at that, I mean, that is the coaching. Our program has gone all the way into the very bottom. So there does need to be some accountability. I think a lot of the things Gus could figure out, but I'm afraid he's going to have to change Rhett Lashley, even though I like him. If you guys said you didn't know, but he's been with Gus for a long time. I think Gus feels like a father for him.
Didn't he start with him at Arkansas State? Am I right there?
With him in high school. I'd seen somebody said that he assisted with him in high school.
Oh, okay.
And then he came on as a graduate, assistant here under Gus with Chiswick, and then he went over with him in Arkansas State. So he's been with him the whole time, and you hear, if the plays go wrong, it was Gus calling the offense. If A&M, when it goes well, hey, Rhett was calling that. I think that's just him protecting him. But unfortunately, it's one of the tricks of the trade. When Tommy Tuberville came, it was the highest paid staff because he had a team, and he was all about the team. Well, when things got wrong, Tuberville let his coordinators go, and it buys you more time. Gus has already done that once, right after Wisconsin. Hey, I don't want to take questions on the defense. I hired the best defensive coordinator in the nation. Okay, coach. Well, you hired Ellis Johnson. I think he's going to have to do that again to buy some time. I'm hoping that Rhett maybe can resign or something so he can get, maybe not get fired. But that's the way coaches do it. They buy time. The question I have, the only thing that we can do to kind of buy some time is how hard is it to get a good offensive coordinator when you're an offensive genius? I watch Auburn. I don't watch everybody else. I have no idea what the coordinator was like with Steve Spurrier. How hard it is to recruit someone when that's kind of your baby to a degree. But that's got to be addressed. I think he's going to have to do it to buy time because we don't need to keep changing coaches. But as satisfied to be losing the whole state at home and losing to the I think I've ever seen. And I know that sounds like sour grapes, but they were flat. They did not have a quarterback that like they normally do. Their tailback was out, and you got beat at home. So, I mean, we're at the bottom. And I think changes do have to come because at some point we can talk about the details, but the 16th highest paid coach and the highest paid, coordinator on defense, we're not in the top 20. So there has to be some accountability.
We sure do appreciate the phone call. Got a lot more set up out there, Andy, and we'll head on to break, buddy.
Yeah. I just think, at Auburn as a kind of a graduate assistant. I know his first official job, he went to Samford as the OC. Then he went with Gus Malzahn.
And he was a high school quarterback.
Then he came to Auburn. Yeah, absolutely. Up against the break, as Randy said, we'll take your phone calls when we come back. More Sports Call presented by Home Place Mortgage right after this. Welcome back in, everyone, to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock. Taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on the AO Tourism Hotline. And we'll get right back to the phone line.
Jose, you're on Sports Call.
Yes, it's me.
Be glad to have you.
Oh, thank you. But to me, my topic is a little bit different. Philip Marshall mentioned something a few weeks ago. He said that my problem is the so-called Auburn fans, especially your number one caller every day, Shadow. Philip Marshall said that when the team is winning, everybody's on the bandwagon. When you start making problems, everybody's an expert. You know, just like when Tiger Woods starts screwing up, different people say, oh, there's one thing wrong with your swing. There's one thing wrong. Everybody become a coach. You know, the Shadow and that guy that always yells, James, they know everything. One thing about football is that, and I coach amateur coaches before because I have my opinion, but I never go bashing coaches. They might be bad, I don't care, because I don't really know what's going on in the athletic department. What we see is what we can see on TV. Now, with Shadows, he got lucky in 2012, and he thinks he's the world expert now. I told you this year, or he screwed up this year. After the Kentucky game, he said that Auburn will never win another SEC game. Well, he was wrong. We won the game with Texas A&M. And yeah, I was disappointed, but I'm not going to say anything bad. I might disagree with you to quarterback, but I'm not going to go out there bashing them. No. It's their decision, and they have to live with it. But as an Auburn fan, and I spend money supporting a lot of their program, I just give them more support. The worst thing you could do is to, when you're down, is to keep on questioning the problem. Because I'm in that position before. As a retired military officer, sometimes you make decisions that are wrong. In our case, if you make decisions, it could mean somebody's life. So, for a lesson, no. I support them. We are called Auburn family. A family is that when you're in trouble, instead of bashing them down, you give them more support. Let people who make a decision if they want to get rid of the coach or not me.
We appreciate it this afternoon, buddy. And he brings up great points right there. Got a lot of phone calls coming through, but he says experts when we lose, and yeah, unfortunately we are. But this has been a stretch of Auburn football. Forget.
I think that applies to individual calls during the game. I understand, the coaches know certainly far more than I do, but 12-2, 8-5, at best 7-6. Obviously, things are going in the wrong direction. Somebody's got to be.
And as a fan base, it's not life or death. You're exactly right. And look, I'll always love Auburn, but I'm gonna love them enough. I'm gonna throw one out there, and I think that's what fans do. That's what makes us passionate about going out there.
It's a good thing, or we'd be out of work.
We definitely would. Back to the phone line, Steve. You're on Sports Call.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Glad to have you, Steve.
Glad to let you. I want to thank you, really, both you guys and the other guys the rest of the week for allowing us 2 hours of therapy time. I appreciate it.
No charge, Steve.
Appreciate it. I wish I were as smart as some of the people who pretend to be, and they will go and name it their initials or Shadow and whoever their other callers. But if I was that smart, if I knew what was going on with this program, I wouldn't be calling you guys. I'd be right now calling or emailing or texting Jay Jacobs and or Gus Malzahn and tell them, here's what you got to do. But I'm not that smart. But I did call because I want to throw out a question I'd thrown out yesterday. And the question to you guys is this, and to the listening audience. Is this job the right job for Coach Malzahn? And what I mean by that is coaching at a major university a good fit for him? I don't know if it is or not. I'm just putting it out there. Or maybe a better fit for him might be a lower level university. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. My question is not meant to bash him or the rest of the coaches. Sometimes, when we do our best and our best isn't good enough, maybe that needs to tell us something. I'll hang up and listen to your comments about that question, God. Thank you. War Eagle always.
War Eagle to you. We don't have another caller waiting, so why don't you answer?
I think he's the right guy for Auburn in a lot of ways. Number one, he's a really good man. He's obviously a man of faith. He's a family man. He's got the right attitude. He understands Auburn. He that whole family thing. He embraces that. From all those aspects, he's definitely the right guy for Auburn because Auburn holds those things. At least we do when it's convenient. But I think it's true. Auburn is a special place, and I think again, in a lot of ways, he's the perfect guy for Auburn. He was the perfect guy in 2013. Can we get back to that? Can we get back to that kind of offense? Can we get? He made a good decision with hiring Will Muschamp. I think the defense is going to get figured out. We're talking about one really bad year of offense. I mean, does that erase the 6 years previous that he had a really good offense? He's had a bad year. Auburn's had a bad year, so I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. Certainly, if he can't figure it out next year, then we gotta have a serious conversation. But right now, today, I believe he's the right guy.
One more phone call before we go to break. Paul, you're on Sports Call.
I was calling. I think the one thing, maybe it's in the back of everybody's mind, it's like an article that came out. I can't remember who it was that wrote it. It might have been Kevin Scarvinsky yesterday, but he was talking about the Iron Bowl that, maybe Auburn needs to call in sick, and he's saying one of his questions was a rhetorical question. He said, well, what's the score going to be? And he basically answered, he said, it's going to be whatever Nick Saban wants it. And he was pointing out that, in 2008, that's when he blanked Dean Sissick, and before that was Tommy Tuberville, 49-0. And so I'm thinking a lot of Auburn fans are seeing that writing on the wall in 2 weeks, and it's just hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. So I had that in mind, but I also have a suggested solution from this year going forward. Coach Boone didn't work out so good as a head coach, but he's a great defensive coordinator. And Malzahn, he's a great offensive coordinator, but so far he hadn't worked out that great as a head coach. So why don't we just say, okay, whichever unit performs better, offense or defense, then that coordinator, that person gets to be the head coach, and the other guys just have to be a coordinator. So since defense is doing good this year, then Muschamp can be the head coach next year and get the head coach pay. What do you think about that?
Somehow I don't think that would work.
Hey, we appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. A lot of phone calls coming through. I think we got a guest coming up next, don't we, Andy?
Yeah, hopefully we'll connect with Chad Scott, radio personality down in Florida, as well as contributor with Gridiron Now. He wrote an article just yesterday, I think, Gus Malzahn on the hot seat in 2016. We'll talk to him about that. Great phone calls. I'm willing to try anything at this time. But up against the break, don't go anywhere. More Sports Call presented by Lee Marketing Group right after this.
209-0193.
Auburn Links at exit 51 features Bermuda grass greens and rolling fairways along Parkerson's Mill Creek. By taking advantage of the natural beauty already in place, Auburn Links has a scenic yet fair layout for every golfer. Golf Digest presented Auburn Links with the 4-Star Award, and Links Magazine once ranked the course 3rd best among public courses in the Southeast region. It's one of the best golfing values in the South. Visit their website for more information at auburnlinks.com. For tee times, call 887-5151.
If you're looking for Auburn gear, shop Auburn's #1 superstore, the Big Blue Bookstore. Tailgating needs, school supplies, fan gear for every sporting event, Big Blue has you covered. And they offer a full-service post office and copy and fax services inside the store.
Can you believe it? The Tigers have done it again!
The Big Blue Bookstore is your Auburn t-shirt headquarters. Buy 3 t-shirts, get 1 free.
Touchdown! Auburn wins!
Get everything Auburn at the Big Blue Bookstore in the Winn-Dixie Shopping Center on South College Street in Auburn.
Everybody knows you've been stepping on my toes.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Call on this Tuesday afternoon. Andy Graham here with you for another couple of segments on today's show. Taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free, or locally at 334-887-3401. We'll pick up your phone calls in the final segment of today's show. But right now, we want to go to the AO Tourism Hotline and welcome in our very special guest, Chad Scott. Chad, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, and it's nice to be back on Sports Call, a show that I used to host about 1 million years ago. And while I haven't been in Auburn for a couple years now, as a graduate, not a day goes by hardly that I don't think at some point of the day about time spent in Auburn and fun on the radio and in school and all that kind of thing.
Well, certainly we'll want to welcome you back. Of course, your radio personality there, down there in Florida, co-author of the book Saving Innovation, available on Amazon.com, and now writing for gridironnow.com as well. Just kind of let us know. I mean, take us a little bit back during the day. You said, just used to be a co-host of Sports Call. Just take us back to those times a little bit.
Yeah, this would have been, I graduated from Auburn with a journalism degree in 97 and started working for Tiger 95.9 at the time in WAUD, 97 to like 99-ish, and then went to Birmingham and Oregon and Atlanta and ESPN and back to Atlanta and finally here in Jacksonville. That's about as short as I can make it for you for sports radio. And we launched gridironnow.com in September, hoping to make it the premier digital destination for SEC football fans 24/7, 365. And we hope that we are starting to approach that high standard. And I write a lot and frequently about Auburn for the website.
Well, you wrote an interesting article just the other day for Gridiron Now about Gus Malzahn. And, this Auburn season obviously has not gone the way that everybody hoped that it would. Maybe there was some certainly misleading expectations from the media, but Auburn has fallen on hard times. Looks like, of course, now they're 5-5, but your article is about Malzahn and next year's, I guess the importance of next year, him being on the hot seat. Just talk a little bit about that.
Well, and this is not an opinion. I like Gus Malzahn. I want Auburn to win every single game. I hope they go 12-0 next season. But based on the standard Auburn has set for its football coaches going back Harry Bowden, Tommy Tuberville, Gene Chizik, Gus Malzahn is going to have an outstanding 2016 to even match the records of those three guys in their final 3 years after which they were fired. If you look at straight winning percentage, this is not an opinion. This is math. Okay, you cannot argue this. Straight winning percentage. Gus Malzahn would have to go 10-2 next season to match Tommy Tuberville's winning percentage in Tuberville's final 3 seasons for which he was fired. So by that math and by Auburn's history, not my opinion, Gus Malzahn is absolutely on a hot seat next season.
You look at those coaches, and you mentioned them, of course, we're going all the way back to Terry Bowden. Kind of similarly, he starts out like Gus Malzahn, out of the gate, like a rocket. But you could see the program, declining a little bit. Recruiting was certainly down. And although he won the Western Division, goes to the SEC title game, gets beat by Florida pretty handily. But and then, like you mentioned, Tommy Tuberville, he has several really good years there in the mid 2000s, but things kind of go south in 2008. A lot due to recruiting. But when you look at Gus Malzahn, what do you think is the biggest problem? What has gone wrong in his tenure so far?
I tell you what, and a lot of people have asked, hey, how come everyone's expectations are so bad about Auburn? How come we all missed about Auburn? I say this, and you mentioned, the media's expectations were off this season. You know who else's expectations were off? Gus Malzahn. Because I can pull the stories up online after the Outback Bowl last year where he said our expectation next year is to get to the SEC championship game. Okay, as much as the media or anyone else fed into these expectations at Auburn, Gus Malzahn fed those expectations and certainly did nothing to tamp them down. And I don't know how anyone could expect me or any other media member to say what's gone wrong with Auburn when Gus Malzahn doesn't know, and he doesn't know. If you look at some of the decisions he's made in the last couple of weeks, he is at the throw it against the wall and see what sticks phase. And that's what's really troubling the most to me. He doesn't seem to have the answers. Now, we can all look and say, he's got a mismatched quarterback for his system and he needs more of a Cam Newton or a Nick Marshall type, someone to run read option, that kind of thing. That seems very obvious to you. It probably seems obvious to a lot of your listeners. Why that doesn't seem obvious to Gus Malzahn, I don't know. What's wrong with Auburn? I don't know. And I don't think Gus Malzahn knows either.
Yeah, we keep I filled quite a few calls today, and a lot of people have a lot of different opinions. And there's a lot of things wrong, I think, with Auburn. But certainly he looks befuddled on the sideline these days, and that's not a good sign. Again, going back to these coaches, it seemed, Tommy Tuberville, it seemed like every time he'd get on the hot seat, you'd have staff changes. Gene Chizik kind of the same way. He rotated defensive coordinators. What do you see next year? I mean, do you see changes being made in this Auburn staff?
Well, you're a lot closer to it than I am. Do you think, there's going to have to be a fall guy? Is that fall guy Rhett Lash? I mean, you're not going to do anything on the defensive side of the ball. That's Will Muschamp's deal, and he's certainly shown marked improvement. But, are the Hounds looking for a pound of flesh, and do you think that person is Rhett Lashley?
To be quite honest, we had this conversation 10 minutes ago, and somebody called in and said, I was talking to somebody off the air about Rhett Lashley and how he was going to have to be the sacrificial lamb. And I said, I don't think there's any way Gus Malzahn fires him because he's like his son. It seems like that relationship. So I think goes the offense.
Here's where, I agree with you. I mean, their personal, to say friends does not even begin to scratch the surface of it. And to say that Rhett Lashley is in control of that offense and not Gus Malzahn, that's disingenuous. And it's sort of similar to Georgia under Mike Bobo. People would complain about Mike Bobo and his play calling and this, that, and the other thing. That was Mark Richt's offense. You couldn't fire Mike Bobo because you'd be firing Mark Richt. And I see something similar with Lashley. Now, Lashley may have to fall on the sword. He may have to, for Gus's betterment, or the pressure may get too high, or, someone needs to, kind of, again, fall on the sword or whatever it happens to be. He may have to resign himself. But I agree. It's hard for me to imagine Gus Malzahn pulling Rhett Lashley into his office, someone who he's been with since high school, and just canning him. I don't see that.
Yeah, you mentioned, of course, next year, and you threw out, 10-2 to get to a certain percentage of winning percentage. Do you think there's a definite number next year that Gus Malzahn has to get to?
No, but 8, anything less than 8 seems real dicey to me. Unfortunately, the schedule is more difficult next season when you have to go to Georgia, to Alabama, and you swap Clemson for Louisville in the opener, and Clemson will probably be a top 10 team in the country. This was kind of the year to make hay, unfortunately, for Auburn. Next year, it's just too early to tell. But another 6-6 won't get it done. I promise you that. And I'll say this: a lot of people now have started talking about, well, the buyout's so big, the buyout's this many $1 million, that many $1 million. I'll ask you this: when has an SEC football program ever let money and a buyout get in the way of removing a coach you wanted gone? The answer to that question is never. I don't care how big the buyout is. There's always money to be found to buy out a head coach if you don't want him. And that's the case at Auburn. And if Auburn doesn't want Gus Malzahn after next season, money's not going to stand in their way. I will promise you that.
You know, going back just kind of to wrap things up here, but Terry Bowden, you know, went to the SEC title game, and the next year he was fired or resigned, whichever way you want to look at it or phrase it. Tommy Tuberville, you know, he had some good years, and then, of course, everything went downhill really quick. Gene Chizik wins the national championship. Gus Malzahn goes to the national, wins the SEC, and now we're talking about 2-3 years later, him being on the hot seat, being fired. When does this become a dangerous cycle that Auburn, you know, fires coaches too quickly?
Yeah, you know, that's in the eye of the beholder. Maybe it becomes a dangerous cycle when you don't have the up spike. You know, I was not in favor as an Auburn fan and Auburn graduate of firing Tommy Tuberville. But, boy, if I'd known 2 years later you win a national championship, I would have been in favor of it. And I was proven wrong. Okay, and it was the right decision to fire Terry Bowden, because Tommy Tuberville is better. And it was the right decision in hindsight to fire Tuberville because Chizik engineered the greatest season in Auburn football history 2 years later. And it was the right decision to fire Chizik because Gus Malzahn, the very next season, went to the national championship again. So I guess when you fire one guy and the next guy doesn't have that incredible high spot, then it will have been a mistake. But I want to say this too. I don't criticize Auburn for having high standards. Hiring a football coach to me is not like getting married or choosing to have kids. It's not a 50-year decision. If you make a wrong decision, well, fire that guy too and hire the next guy. You know, some people talk about these decisions like they're intractable and then they change your life forever. I mean, it's a big decision, but it's not something you can't correct if you realize it is the wrong decision. And you'll have some hard times, but Auburn eventually will get back because it has the resources, it has the tradition, and people care too much about it. So I'm never going to fault Auburn for having such high standards that they say, you know what, Gus Malzahn or Gene Chizik or Terry Bowden or whoever, 65, 66, 67% winning percentage isn't good enough. And if Gus Malzahn wins 7 games next year and Auburn chooses to part ways with him, I'm not going to complain about that because I think Auburn should strive for excellence in every single thing it does.
Chad Scott, we really appreciate your point of view. Former Auburn graduate, former host of Sportscall. Can't thank you enough for joining us today. And just kind of be sure to tell everybody, go ahead and check out gridironnow.com as well as, of course,
you got it.
Anything else you'd like to promote while you're on?
No, that's fine. And if there's any old friends of mine listening, you can find me on Twitter at Chad Scott, 2 D's in Chad, 2 T's in Scott, and visit gridironnow.com. Do one thing for me. Visit gridironnow.com one time. If you don't like it, never go back.
Thank you so much for being on with us today.
See you guys.
Absolutely. Up against the break here, but don't go anywhere. More Sports Call presented by Lee Marketing Group right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call, the final segment of today's show. Andy and Randy taking you home to 6 o'clock here. Still time to get that final phone call in. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401 on the AO Tourism Hotline. Caught up with Chad Scott, former host of or co-host of Sports Call, radio personality down there in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. Just great interview, great perspective of a guy that obviously has got a lot of love for Auburn.
We're glad to have him back on and hope to catch up back with him several more times we move forward. I can always tell when you're enjoying an interview, Andy, when you get to moving a little more and you got a smile on your face when the guy's talking, and you had that with Chad on there. We've had a busy show. We've had a lot of phone calls. Our question of the day, what's your biggest concern with Auburn football moving forward? If there's not a concern, you can call in with that, but we have yet to hear that answer, haven't we?
We have. To me, I think I agree more with the quarterback play. And I've said it before. I've said it earlier in the show. When you have great quarterback play, we've had about 7,000 yards of offense for a season. This year we're probably going to about 4.5. I mean, when you have poor quarterback play, it destroys everything we're doing. And we're close in these games. If our defense hadn't gotten better this year, we'd be getting blown out in a lot of these games. But the defense has kind of closed the gap a little bit. That's what we wanted. Now, if the offense can just get back in, and again, I go back to let's pick a direction and go in it. And I look at Baylor. Baylor brings in a freshman quarterback and he throws for 400 yards. What is it? Because he's a great quarterback? I mean, they know what they want. They go out and recruit it, and they got them just lined up to come in. Auburn's got to do that. We got to, if we're going to be the read option, let's line them up and put them in one right after the other.
You're going to spare me for a minute talking poorly with Auburn to let me spin over to some positive talk as we close out this program?
I need some positive.
I love high school athletics.
Absolutely.
And we are in the third round of the high school football playoffs, Andy, and we have got some matchups and we've got some potential setups for the upcoming week that's got me as excited as I've ever been. First off, Opelika High School, who's 12-0, they go on the road to a 12-0 Spanish Fort team and one of the top matchups in the state this week. This is the best. If it's not the best Opelika team I've ever seen, it's one of them. And that's saying a mouthful, but they've got to get over the hump. They want a state championship. And I completely agree that they've got one of the top communities when it comes to high school football. So they'll head down and play a Spanish Fort team with a quarterback that's never lost as a starter. So that's what you get in the third round of the high school playoffs. I love Benjamin Russell. Brett and I do the broadcast for them. We're 11-1. Only loss that we've had is at Opelika. And that's what I want to bring up here. Opelika goes on the road and defeats Spanish Fort, and Benjamin Russell defeats Bessemer City here this Friday night. It sets up a semifinal matchup that
for the ages.
It's one when you live where we do. If you're in the Auburn Opelika area and you live in Alexander City in the Lake Martin region, there's always been an Opelika and Benjamin Russell rivalry going on, at least back to when we were in school too, Andy, and way before that. Can you imagine a semifinal matchup with those two teams playing one another?
Wow. I mean, it'd be like that Auburn, 2009, that Auburn that you and Brett went to and left.
Well, Auburn played Prattville at that night.
That was that was a big – I remember people talking about that, but this would even be bigger than that.
It would be humongous. It would. Now, maybe I'm biased to where the games that I call and growing up in that rivalry, but two great communities. Auburn is as well. So I'm talking to the majority of the community that's listening in to this broadcast today. But I think they're two of the best communities of high school football in the state, and I don't think it's close. Because when you go on the road and see what we saw on the road last week, that's what high school football is about. We had it packed on above Birmingham, towards Tuscaloosa at Macador, and we had it packed on our side. So it was a lot of fun, Andy, and it just gets into a fun time of year that if you're a recruitnik out there, you can go out and you can see some of the top talent and you can start seeing where these kids are going to end up playing their college ball.
Yeah, great atmosphere. I mean, so good y'all even turn the lights out up there at Macador. Something's weird going on up there. Every time Mr. Russell goes up there, the lights go out. I don't know what the deal is, but looking forward to it, the possibility of that kind of matchup just would be huge. It would be huge for everybody involved in it.
Totally agree.
That's going to do it for the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Really appreciate your calls. Love to get those for the rest of the week as well. Sports Call back on the air tomorrow at 4. Will and Tom will be with you. For Randy Lee, I'm Andy Graham saying so long for now. We'll talk again soon.